All right, ladies and gentlemen, we got him. Steven believes in aliens because he's been an alien this whole time.
Hey,
120 years.
hello, Earthlings. I descend from the planet Uranus, and
That's
okay.
not a joke I would expect from Steven.
Oh man, it is a planet. That is its name. But okay, I'm not even going to defend myself.
Dude, I
Well,
wonder who came up with that name. Who
welcome.
said, let's name a planet Uranus?
I know, right? Welcome to Beyond the Campfire. I am one of your hosts, Steven, aka Sahil the Disciple. This is my co-host, Will, aka the Cowboy, aka whatever else you want to call me.
AKA the sexy one, AKA Mr. Steal Your Man, AKA
Oh
the
man.
favorite one, the favorite child.
Yeah, if you are new to this channel, we are Beyond the Campfire. We talk about ghosts, we talk about conspiracy theories, we talk about cryptids, anything that's mysterious, anything that's spooky, anything that you would maybe want to talk about at a campfire with your friend.
Steven's
That's
love
what
life.
that's what we're here to do. That's what we're do. So obviously, if you're a fan of Western films, there's cowboys and Indians, and so we got Will the cowboy. If you're watching on the audio only, you can't see my race, but I am indeed an Indian, and so there you go.
Give
Gotta
us, you know what you
cowboy,
got to do, Steve?
huh?
You got to give us the accent.
The accent. Oh man. Welcome to Beyond the Campfire, and okay. Anyway,
Now you believe them.
there you go. So today we are talking about, have aliens been watching us for the last 13,000 years? If the Black Knight satellite conspiracy theorists or realists, whatever you want to call them, are to be believed, we have been watched, Will. Will, while he's taking a shower, he's been being watched. So when
And I
you,
thought Santa was a pervert.
I know. So, if you are not familiar with the Black Knight satellite conspiracy theory, it is a belief that there is a satellite of extraterrestrial slash alien origin that has been watching humans for thousands of years. We're going to talk about where this belief came from, what are some of the stories behind it, why some people would say it's not true, and yeah, that's what we have lined up for you today. So before we get into it, Will, any thoughts, comments, concerns?
Yeah.
If these aliens are real and they're watching us right now, they're watching us make this podcast about them. I hopefully that doesn't put us on some kind of cosmic galactic hit list or anything like that.
Hey, being on the government watch list, already on there. Now, what's not going up one level and being on the cosmic watch list, that's an achievement.
I know, right? But hey, if you wake up at 3 a.m. and you see the cows in your backyard being beamed up into space, well, we'll know we offended somebody. So yeah, hopefully it's only your cows being beamed up. Hopefully it's not you or your lovely wife or anything like that. That would be
Yeah. I
that would be
don't
very.
want to be probed.
I just I love how you talked about yourself first before your wife. So
Yeah. Well, I don't think they're going to want, well, actually, they might want her. But see, the
well,
good thing about it is, like, if I get beamed up, maybe I can get my gun, and then I can be the first guy that killed aliens and stole their UFO.
Yeah, maybe whenever we do a Patreon, we go alien hunting. So
what's gonna be funny is if we actually get abducted by aliens.
Yeah, or we pull out our guns and look super cool and kill a bunch of aliens. That could also happen.
Welcome to Independence Day.
I think I'd have to buy a gun first, but I've lived in Atlanta all this time and I still don't have a gun. I think that's a me problem, if anything. But
yeah, because you got shot that one time. If only you had a gun.
So that might have to be a story for another day.
The conspiracy theory.
But all right, the Black Knight satellite. So again, this is a satellite that is believed to be hovering above Earth, that NASA, the U.S. government, and the other powers that be have been hiding for the last several decades, if not possibly the last several centuries. And to really get into where this story started, we have to go back about over 120 years ago to 1899 with a little known figure known as Nikola Tesla.
I'm not going to try to say that because I'm going to mess it up.
I know, right?
I'm going
So
to save myself.
I know some of you just now probably heard the name Tesla and you're like, oh, those are those weird steel box cars that I see on the road sometimes. And
Dude,
I
I
know.
saw a Cybertruck.
Oh, you did? Okay. I've actually seen
Saw
a
it
couple.
twice.
I've seen a couple the last week too. So I feel like they're becoming more common.
I've only seen 2.
Anyway, I guess you'll put up the photos at some point.
Maybe.
But
Or
there's a
else I'm just going to be lazy and just upload it without pictures. Maybe. Uh-oh.
You could also do that.
Uh-oh.
But yeah, so there's a cyber. We're not talking about. Oh,
Steven. We're losing Steven. Steven is dying. You need to pay your Wi-Fi bill.
am I back?
Yeah, you're back. Just pay your Wi-Fi bill next time.
Dude, I was just talking. What was the last thing you heard? Because I talked and I thought I was.
We were talking about Cybertrucks, and then you went all robotic. The aliens were getting you. The aliens were getting Steve.
I think it's my alien DNA coming out.
Uh-oh.
Anyway, but yeah, so Cybertrucks, yeah, we're not talking about Tesla, the car company created by this guy, Elon Musk. We are talking about Nikola Tesla, who the Tesla was named after. And yeah, 1899, Nikola Tesla, very famous scientist, and went in, was credited with a lot of different inventions that have helped us to this day. And, Tesla was working under Thomas Edison, the light bulbs in your house. Thomas Edison largely helped to develop and create those things. So Nikola Tesla was working with Thomas Edison. They had a falling out. Nikola Tesla heads over to Colorado Springs because that's really where you want to go do fancy science stuff when you break up with your scientific mentor / partner. But that wasn't a gay joke. I think I realized when I said it that sounded like gay. No, that I'm not implying there was any kind of gay romance between those two.
June was 2 months ago, guys. Chill.
Haley's gonna have fun with these clips.
Oh yeah.
But yeah, so Nikola Tesla goes to Colorado Springs. He builds this massive tower, and he starts experimenting with wireless power. And then he starts to receive signals. And that's where the Black Knight satellite theory starts to develop. So, so far.
We're going to eventually cover, because I think one day, I think we'll have to, group all of them together in one episode to make it long enough. But, people believe, the government killed Nikola Tesla.
Do people really believe that? Oh, that might be an episode. We do.
Because, that's the crazy thing about him. And, hearing about the Black Knight satellite, I didn't know he was tied into it. But there's a person on TikTok. I love watching the guy. And if I remember correctly, he tried to recreate what Nikola Tesla was trying to do with power, and he was told to stop. So it's like a question of Nikola Tesla could have made unimaginable energy to where we wouldn't have to rely on solar power or wind power or coal power. And for some reason, he died, didn't get to complete it. We don't even know what it's supposed to be.
Hey, there's a lot of reasons people could have hated him, so I believe that. But yeah, so Nikola Tesla starts receiving these signals, and he starts to notice there's a pattern to it because Nikola Tesla had heard lots of signals before, and usually, they were random and disjointed. And normally, Nikola Tesla's like, okay, well, these are just sounds of space, sound of Earth. These ones sounded more methodical to him. He even started to believe that there was a sentient sort of intelligence behind these things. And so Nikola Tesla, several decades later in 1923, tells this to the Albany Telegram. So he goes on public record to talk about some of these signals he's receiving in his laboratory in Colorado Springs. He says, I have a deep conviction that highly intelligent beings exist on other planets. While experimenting in Colorado, I obtained extraordinary experimental evidence of the existence of life on other planets. I had perfected a wireless receiver of extraordinary sensitiveness, far beyond anything known, and I caught signals which I interpreted as meaning 1, 2, 3, 4. I believe that extraterrestrials use numbers for communication because numbers are universal. End quote.
Mm.
So, brilliant scientist, highly respected, highly regarded. We have cars named after him.
Yeah.
That's how well respected, and he's saying these things. So, for me as the skeptic among the two of us, that does give me at least some pause. I'm just like, okay, well respected scientist. He fully and firmly believes that he's receiving these signals from extraterrestrials. So, will
Right.
the so far?
I mean, listen, if it's 1899. Okay. Could he have gotten well, no, because I don't think see that's the thing is he couldn't have been like, you could have your phone and think you're getting, a hot girl in your area, but it's a catfish or, so like he can't have that happen to him. He's not hooked up to to any telegraph lines. So what could have been causing the signals, And if it's like he said, where it's, you've got a consistent thing going on where it's the same thing constantly, no change, no randomness to it. That's got to mean there's somebody behind it.
Right, for sure, and that was something that made it very different from some of the other things that had been happening. So, yeah, I will say so. At the time, many people highly respected Nikola Tesla. They appreciated his work in several other areas, but when it came to the story that he was sharing, many of the scientists, contemporary scientists at that time, were saying, "Hey, Nikola Tesla, he's a smart dude. He's done a lot of work, but in this area, he's a bit of a weirdo. He's not somebody that we should really listen to, at least in regards to those things." And so most of the scientific community kind of dismissed what he was saying at that time, and kind of like what the Democratic Party's been doing with Trump and JD Vance lately. They kind of just labeled him as a weirdo and called him weird when it came to some of those things. So, yeah, had to throw in a little politics there to promote my other podcast.
Which we haven't uploaded in a while because Steven needs to send Will MP3 files and not MP4 files.
Yeah, dude, it's been a busy week. We'll have to talk. We'll have to talk after the stream about my plans for Beyond the Culture. I do want to continue it, but it's going to look maybe not as consistent as this one is.
Yeah.
But that said, so for a while, all Nikola Tesla can do is receive these signals, but nobody's really listening to him. Nobody's really replicating the stuff he's doing.
Yeah.
So for a while, we don't really hear anything else about these signals. About 3 decades later, a Norwegian engineer, I'm going to badly butcher this name, but Jorgen Hals built his own kind of signal receiver. And again, this is the 1920s, so way, way, way before the U.S. or any country for that matter has created any kind of spacecraft or thing to receive signals. But he built his own thing in the 1920s. And he starts to receive signals with a delayed echo that also, along with Nikola Tesla's, had a more prolonged, like, methodical rhythm pattern to it. It wasn't the random sounds of space or Earth like other things, but Jorgen Hals was also saying, hey, I'm receiving signals that sound very planned out and methodical. And I believe that this is also the work of extraterrestrials. And so now you have two scientists within the span of a few decades, long before any kind of satellites or anything are created, saying, hey, we are receiving these signals, and because of how patterned they are, we believe that this is the work of intelligent beings. So, pretty interesting so far.
Yeah.
Any questions so far before we continue?
No. I think you and I should build a signal translator in the barn and try to contact some aliens.
Catch some aliens out. Or catch a wife. Who knows? For me.
Steven, getting him a wife.
I know, right?
He goes from the bell witch to the not deer.
Oh, my goodness.
Now to an alien. I'm telling you, I think the best item that's going to be on our shop, and I hope people actually buy it because I think it's hilarious. And if people don't buy it, I'll still make it. So then I could just order one and stick it in Steven's office. is the 2025 cryptid/alien bikini calendar.
Golly, how you and our editor single-handedly made me out to be a cryptophile. Is that how you would say cryptid lover? How
Yeah,
you both managed to do that? I do not know, but here we are. Here we are.
we did it.
Okay, so the next several decades, so those were the two big instances. There were a lot of smaller instances after those two. Those two are
Mhm.
significant because they happen pretty much after satellites and radio signals. The other ones are happen later, much later. They're not as famous because, again, by that point, U.S. government and other government agencies are creating spacecraft and sending them out into space. Um, but between 1958 and 1965, a British rocket called the Black Knight rocket, which the Black Knight satellite actually derives its name from this thing, but a Black Knight rocket was sent off into space, uh, and it was also said to have received some pretty methodical, guess what's it called, space signals. In February 1960, Time reported that the U.S. Navy had detected a dark object thought to be a Soviet spy satellite. Uh, but later on, when they looked through the object again, they couldn't figure out where these signals were coming from or whether they actually were of Soviet origin. So that continues to be a mystery. And then in 1973, Scottish author Duncan Lunan analyzed long delayed radio echo. He analyzed the radio echoes that Jorgen Halls from
Mhm.
1920s had recorded. So in 1973, he goes back through those files and he speculates that um, those long delayed signals are actually about 13,000 years old, which is where we get the theory that the Black Knight satellite has been sending signals for about 13,000 years and that
Mhm.
they've been watching humanity for that long. That's where that figure comes from. Uh,
Yeah.
so that's kind of interesting.
Mhm. That's there's so I guess we think that it was for observation, and that's where there's a bunch of different theories, and I'd have to look up what the name of it is. It's called some paradox, and it's like, why have we not encountered aliens? We haven't. You've got people that say they've encountered UFOs. You've got people that have said you've got the Black Knight satellite. You've got all these different, and now you've got like people are finding these superstructures formed around stars away out in space. There's the city of lights that is happening, and a lot of people were questioning, okay, why have we not encountered aliens yet? And there's like a bunch of different theories, and they all fall into this paradox of why we haven't encountered aliens.
Mm-hmm.
One of the theories of why we probably haven't encountered aliens, for example, is there are no aliens. We are totally alone in this universe. We are the only people.
Yeah.
And there's another theory that there were aliens, but like we're on the same path, they got so far advanced they ended up wiping each other out. Or there are aliens, and like us, they can't do long distance space travel to come and counter us.
Right.
Um, and then there's one that kind of like really kind of sticks with me when we talk about the Black Knight satellite observing us, and that's like the zoo theory, that the whole reason we're on this planet, I think it's the zoo theory. The whole reason why we're on this planet is we're almost like a zoo exhibit to these aliens. They're observing us, they're watching us, they're seeing how we develop as humans and everything. And maybe the Black Knight satellite just falls in that category to where that's their observation, you know? Or it's not aliens at all. We're all on the Truman Show.
We are all being deceived by the forces that.
The Illuminati. We're on a big TV show for the Illuminati.
All right. I really have only one last story, and this kind of ties everything together. And this is where we get the famous pictures of the Black Knight satellite. I will come back to Duncan Lunan, who's the one that went over the footage or the recordings and came up with the 13,000 year number. because I already know some fact checkers are going to be like, well, wait a second, there's something about Duncan Lunan you're not saying, and I'm like, okay, well, I'm going to circle back to that. But so, well, I'm going to trust that you're going to, even if you don't put up the other pictures, I'm going to trust that at
I'll
least you
put
put
up
up.
this one.
But here is the picture of the Black Knight satellite. So in 1998, NASA, along with the International Space Station, sends a mission called the STS-88 mission. And during the mission, they take some photos, and these are the photos that we get back. And if you kind of look at it, that kind of looks like a spacecraft to me. What do you think,
It
Will?
doesn't look Earth made.
Yeah, it doesn't look like any kind of spacecraft we have, but if you look at it, like if you watched any kind of alien movie, I would say this, yeah, it looks like something straight out of Independence Day or ET or whatever other alien movie you want to talk about. But yeah, it doesn't look man-made. So
No, it doesn't. Looking at the photos, and it doesn't look like, like a meteorite, because I know there's some people that think it's a meteorite, but it doesn't look like a meteorite. It doesn't look like Earth made. What is it?
what is it? What is it? So this photo became very famous, and a lot of people are like, "Oh, this is it. This is the Black Knight's satellite." That's been the thing that Nikola Tesla first listened to. This is the thing that Jorgen Hall's listened to. This is the thing that other mysterious signals that have been picked up have been broken into, and people are just like, "Yeah, this is it. This is the Black Knight satellite." So that's pretty much it. To this day, there hasn't really been any more photos. There hasn't been any more really recordings, as far as I'm aware of. But there are. We'll have to do. We'll have to do more podcast episodes on aliens in general, because a lot of the alien stuff are all connected to each other, and Black Knight satellite conspiracy theory fits into some other conspiracy theories. But here's the boring part. Here's why I don't believe the Black Knight satellite is actually a thing. Um, so one of these has been debunked, uh, and then the other ones are, I'm going to say, quasi debunked, or there's at least other explanations. So Duncan Lunan, the guy who came up with the 13,000 year number when
Mm-hmm.
looking information. So later he retracted his conclusion, and he said, "Yeah, I made some errors, and some of the ways the methods I was using wasn't exactly in line with the scientific method." Uh, Now, some people still will say, "No, Duncan Lunan's either lying, or he was pressured, or no, he did use good scientific methods. He just doesn't think they were good enough." Um, but that number that the recordings could come as old as 13,000 years ago, that is at least somewhat in question. It doesn't defeat the Black Knight satellite conspiracy
Yeah.
theory, but it does at least shed a little bit of doubt on that aspect of it, or I would say a lot of doubt in my mind. But that is one thing
Yeah.
that he's kind of debunked himself with that. Uh, the STS-88 mission, and we'll pull up the picture again one more time here. But a space journalist named James Oberg took a look at the photos, and he concluded that the photos are of a thermal blanket that was lost during an EVA mission by Jerry L. Ross and James H. Newman, and NASA pretty much has agreed with James Oberg, and several other people have agreed with that
Sure.
as well. Now, if you look at the photo, I mean, it doesn't really look like a space blanket to me. So
Nope.
that's why I say this is quasi debunked. Some people might get really mad at me for saying that. They might be like, Steven, this notable scientist clearly said it's a space blanket. That should be enough to just say it's a full debunked. I'm going to still say quasi debunked.
Yeah.
Uh, yeah, because, I mean, he is one guy, and, you know, just looking at the photo, it really doesn't look like a space blanket to me. But I think I'll largely agree with him. I don't know if it's a spacecraft per se, but that's just kind of one of the things
Mm.
out there.
So
Uh,
you don't believe, so has doing this research, obviously we're going to slowly convince Steven that aliens are real. After doing your research, do you feel like you're more pulled to believe or more pulled to not believe?
I I don't know. I've always said extraordinary claims require extraordinary evidence, and I think most of the evidence I've seen so far is there's other explanations to some of the things. So this is the last like debunking thing. Um, this isn't really debunking, but I think there's other explanations for what Nikola Tesla heard and Jorgen Hall's heard. So we do know that space and Earth make certain sounds.
Mm-hmm.
Just there's a lot of things that could make sounds. So like a volcano erupting in one part of the planet can make signals in another part of the planet. As far as space goes, supernovas are happening, like stars are exploding, and meteorites are crashing, and so those can create signals that happen. Now, to Nikola Tesla and Jorgen Hall's point, those sounds normally are random. You wouldn't expect some methodical pattern with some of these things.
Yeah.
But a lot of scientists have said this. They said even space sounds or other Earth sounds can sound methodical in certain contexts, depending on the equipment, depending on when you're hearing it, from how far away you're hearing it. And so for me, they said could it be aliens? Maybe. Are there also 1,000 other answers to why those signals sounded so methodical? The answer to that is also yes. And so before I would jump straight to aliens, I would say for me, I'm more likely to believe that there's other reasonable explanations for them sounding methodical. So
Yeah.
for all of the I'm going to stop yapping in just a second, but for all of those reasons I just stated, that's why I'm still really not that convinced of aliens quite yet, particularly this theory. But for me, that's enough to say, Black Knight satellite. Yeah, is it interesting that Tesla believed in aliens? Yes. Is it interesting that Jorgen Hall's believed in aliens? Yes. Do I think they had good answers? Yeah. But what are your thoughts and comments?
Well, I mean, I think, it's, well, first off, with what's his name coming out and saying it's a blanket, and then NASA coming up and saying, yes, you're right. That's a little fishy to me because, as you guys know,
I can agree with that.
Because to me, it's like, the way I think with the government, the way I think with everything, as you guys know, I don't trust the government. I don't believe in the government and all of that. But think about it. If the United States government and NASA find proof of aliens, do you really think they're going to tell the people? Or do you think they're going to try to take what they can from that and turn it into a weapon?
Right.
So that's why when I hear this random dude says it's a space blanket, and there's these pictures now of it, and NASA probably found out that it truly was alien tech, rather than being like, it's alien tech. Oh yeah, that's totally a space blanket. We'll get up there. We'll take it down. Don't worry. That's just where it's like gets a little fishy, that it's, rather than it being, some other scientists saying, you're wrong, bud, it's a blanket. What makes it fishy is that it's NASA saying it. And that's just kind of what a little bit throws me off about it. And then like the same thing, like, Tesla and Halls, they both said they heard the same exact thing. And it was years apart, 20 years apart. And they were both methodical, both had the same rhythm pattern, maybe, and that's where it's like a 50-50 kind of thing. While on one side of the coin, if you believe in the government and you believe that NASA could be right, all right, it's a space blanket. But if you don't believe in NASA, but you think maybe Tesla and then we're hearing something different and we don't know what the Black Knight satellite is, okay. So for me, I think it could be alien. And I think if it is, we're not going to, until one of us goes up there and touches it and it's not NASA or the government, we probably won't know.
Yeah, and I think I would agree with that. So I'm kind of the opposite of Will. I tend to be I won't say I'm completely trusting of the government, but I tend to be a little bit more trusting of the government than he is. But I would agree, if aliens did exist, I do think the government has incentive to keep that secret. the existence of aliens could cause some panic amongst the population. I know governments would probably be interested in trying to deal with or at least talk to aliens first before the people did. So there's certainly a number of reasons the government would have an interest in keeping aliens a
Yeah.
secret. So, certainly I would probably agree with all of those things. But yeah, there you have it. The Black Knight satellite, not to be confused with the Black Knights of the anime Code Geass. Will's probably not going to put up this picture, but this is this is who I'm talking about. But yeah, that's it. So yeah, are aliens real or not? Have they been watching us with the Black Knight satellite?
Are we on the Truman Show? Maybe.
You decide. But
yep.
That's all I have. Will, any last minute thoughts, comments, questions, or concerns?
How many more alien episodes till you start believing?
Oh man, I'm a follow the evidence guy. So if I see compelling evidence, it could be one episode. It could be 30. I don't know. So
well, luckily we've got some UFO stories coming out shortly. Because there's a really good one out there, and then we might just have a day where we just read UFO stories.
Oh yeah, and I think that would be a lot of fun. So if there's anybody out there that we find that has seen a UFO and you want to come on the show and share your story, because me and Will have been talking about getting a guest on this podcast at some point, so we would love to would love to have that at some point.
We're not a guest podcast. Don't get us confused. We're not a guest podcast. We just, sometimes there's some topics where we might want to pull an expert on just to talk about. So, if you've been abducted by aliens, call the UFO hotline. But also either message us on Instagram or send us an email. What is our email? Beyond the Campfire @gmail.com, I think is our email.
Probably, yeah.
Send us an email telling us about your UFO story, and you might be featured on that episode. And I don't just want you to say, I think I got abducted. I want you to tell me exactly what evidence you got. And don't just say you had a sore butt, because you could have just had gay sex the night before.
Oh, man.
Anyways, that's it for this episode, unless you got something to add, Steve.
That's all I have. So, all righty. Well, we will see you on the next one.
Yep. Next week, Steven's talking about something. I couldn't think of the name. I'll figure it out.
Yeah, we'll get to it. All right.
Y'all have a good weekend. Don't party too hard. Don't drink and drive. Actually, yeah. No, wait. Don't do that. Wink.
Okay.
Bye, guys.